Hello, this is Mr. Atha. I'm going to go over your first lesson on what is photosynthesis. Now this video is not to replace your notes. You can still make those from the materials being given to you on Classroom, and it's important you still try the questions on Classroom. This is a short video, so they've got a teacher actually teaching you, which is quite a tricky topic in biology, photosynthesis. So, what is photosynthesis? In this image here, we have a leaf and it's absorbing sunlight, okay? That yellow arrow represents the light energy coming from the sun and it's being absorbed by the leaf. On the left, there's two raw materials that the process photosynthesis uses. We've got the gas carbon dioxide and we've got water. Photosynthesis uses this light energy from the sun to combine the raw materials and make two products. And you can see these products on the right. There is oxygen, which is the gas given off by plants, and there's a carbohydrate, which is a simple sugar called glucose. Okay, so what we're going to learn in this lesson, you're going to understand the role of the chloroplast in this process. At the end, you should be able to write a basic word equation, which shows photosynthesis. And linking with a previous key area, you should be able to explain why plants are referred to as producers in food chains. Then I'm going to finish a little bit by talking about how to learn this information. So, photosynthesis is a series of chemical reactions which green plants use to make sugar. Why green plants? Because green plants use photosynthesis. And they're green because the chloroplasts, which are vital in photosynthesis, are green in colour, which is why green plants do photosynthesis. There's 4 different types of cells. There's the plant in the top left, animal bottom left, bacteria top right, and fungal in the bottom right. We're really just going to look at the plant cell in this topic because it's the only one which has this organelle here. An organelle is like an organ that cells have, okay? So the parts inside of a cell. You can see that there's different organelles like the nucleus, which the bacteria doesn't have. There are the cell walls, which all 3 have apart from the animal cell, and cell membrane, which they all have, okay? You'll learn more about this when we cover cell biology. But for today's lesson, we're interested in this thing called the chloroplast, and this is the site of photosynthesis. So in the plant cell, these little green circles, that's where the photosynthesis is happening. We're also interested in the cell wall of the plants. Now, although the bacteria and fungal cells on the right also have cell walls, there's something a bit different about the plant cell. It's made of a special material which the other cell walls are not made of. Okay, so we're going to look at that. Here we have some bamboo. Okay, so the bamboo is growing. What do you think it's competing for? Well, it's competing for the light, so it's trying to grow as tall as possible to get above the other bamboo and the other trees to get that light. They'll be competing for space. They'll be competing for water. So let's look at what's actually happening here in the biology of this picture. Because in the picture it looks like not much is actually going on, but in fact there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So what is happening here is photosynthesis, making glucose, okay? So the sunlight is being absorbed by the plants, that light energy is used to make glucose, and we're getting oxygen released. I've had to come around again. This time watch the bottom left. H2O is the water. So the water is one of the raw materials it's using to make glucose. The water is H2O, which means it's made of hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen in is being released came from that water. So that tells us something must have happened to the water. It's being broken up. So rather than being H2O, it's been broken to oxygen, which is then released. On the top right there's CO2. So CO2 is the gas that's being absorbed in by the trees and by all plants. And the CO2 is absorbed in so that it can be combined with the hydrogen from the water to make the glucose sugar. That's photosynthesis. You've covered some of this already. In S3 did transport in plants. We talked about how water is absorbed through the root hairs, travels up through the xylem, and if it evaporates out of the leaf, that's called transpiration. But the teacher may have touched on why the tree needs the water in its leaves in the first place. And this is because photosynthesis takes place in the leaves, and one of the raw materials of photosynthesis is water. So as we just said, it needs the hydrogen from that water to make glucose. We also need carbon dioxide, okay? So, whereas humans breathe out carbon dioxide and breathe in oxygen, always remember that plants are the opposite. This green gas that's being absorbed in is the CO2. So the plants absorb CO2 and it's oxygen they release. Okay? So, a synthesis reaction basically means you join two molecules together to make a new molecule. Okay? A word equation is basically when you would replace the symbols with words. So using things like a plus sign, you're using an arrow. Okay? So raw materials on the left of the arrow, product on the right. All synthesis reactions require energy. Because you're joining two things together to make a product, you need an energy to join these things together. In photosynthesis, it's called photosynthesis because the word photo refers to light, and photosynthesis is using light energy. Okay? So though you can't actually see light travelling, what's happening in the little video here is that the light that's coming down from the sun, some of it's being absorbed by the leaves of the plant, and it uses that absorbed light energy for the photosynthesis reactions. So here we have some leaves, and you can see the light kind of passing through them. The one on the left, you can start to see the individual rectangular squares, and you'll start to see some of the green dots, which is the chloroplast. The image in the bottom right should be familiar to you. We covered the structure of the leaf in S3, so you should recognise that there's an upper epidermis and a lower epidermis. There's a slight gap in the bottom of the lower epidermis, which is the stomata. The layers in between are the mesophyll. The top one, which is bunched rectangularly close together, would be your palisade mesophyll, and then this one with slightly more gaps is the spongy mesophyll. And you can see all these green dots in these cells, these are your chloroplasts. So you know already that photosynthesis takes place mostly in the mesophyll layers, but inside the cell, it's taking place inside these green dots called chloroplasts. And here under a microscope, we can see some plant cells. We know they're plant cells because they're rectangular in shape and they have cell walls, and they have all these green dots, which only plant cells have. And these green dots are chloroplasts. They look green because they're filled with a green chemical. We call this a pigment. This green pigment is called chlorophyll. And the chlorophyll's job is to trap the light energy for photosynthesis. This is a key part that you'll need to know for the course. Photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast, and the chlorophyll is a pigment which traps the light energy required for photosynthesis. So, that was the image at the start. We've just covered there. The water travels in from the roots, the carbon dioxide is absorbed, the light energy is used for a synthesis reaction because it's joining the carbon dioxide with the hydrogen from the water to make the sugar, and your other product is the oxygen, which is released as a byproduct. That's photosynthesis. A word equation is when we write it out like we've got below. So you can see we've got water plus carbon dioxide, then an arrow to give us glucose and oxygen. Oxygen is in blue because oxygen came from the water. The carbon dioxide is purple, and I've emphasised the C and the O inside glucose to remind you that the carbon dioxide is made up of carbon and oxygen. The carbon and oxygen is joined with the hydrogen from the water to make glucose. Unfortunately, glucose doesn't have an H in its name, or I've highlighted that too, but the H is hidden in there. Okay? And the light energy is on the yellow arrow. It's being used to combine that hydrogen in between the carbon and the oxygen to make the glucose sugar. You might recognise this character, Einstein. In S1 we talked about energy. And Einstein said energy cannot be made or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. And what's happening in biology is we're taking light energy and the plant's using photosynthesis to change it into chemical energy. That chemical energy in plants can then be consumed by animals to get the chemical energy. So we call plants producers because they can produce their own food. And by that we mean the sugar. So they're able to make this chemical energy in the form of sugar from sunlight using reactions called photosynthesis. The animals are consumers because they consume energy from the plant. An arrow, of course, in a food chain always shows the flow and direction of energy. Okay, so how are you going to learn lesson 1? So along the bottom here, we're going to talk about 5 things. First of all, as the wee guy in the treadmill, is your motivation. You need to be motivated to learn it. I can't make you want to learn this. So you've chosen to do biology, you need to think about that motivation, make sure you are being motivated. The next symbol, the guy's head with exclamation mark, is about attention. If you look at the image above, there's a box with lots of dots in it. That's your environment. There's lots going on. You're not even in school at the moment, and you're going to have to think about this one lesson, which is a single dot, and focus on it to go into your brain and into what we call your working memory. Your working memory only can hold a few things at once, so it can only hold it for a short period of time. So what you need to be doing, and what learning is moving it from your working memory into your long-term memory. The third picture on the bottom shows somebody doing this by relating new information to old information. So in today's video, I tried to relate back to things you learnt in S3 about photosynthesis, about how water's transported to the leaves for that reason. So trying to make those connections between things as we go. Lesson 2, we're going to try and connect things in lesson 1 to lesson 2. So keep relating the information to one another. To keep it in the long-term memory, you have to practice remembering it. So it goes back into your working memory and then goes back to your long-term memory. This strengthens the memory and stops it from disappearing. It stops you from forgetting it. You can think it, you can say it. A great way to do is try and teach it. Try and teach a parent or guardian or family member at home about something. You need to also then do the last image in the far right, which is evaluating how much do you know. The best way to do that is through questioning. So try the Google Forms, try the quizzes, close your notes and try and write a summary. Check your notes to see if there's anything you've forgotten, okay? Because some things will, like the diagram, be forgotten. They'll move out of your long-term memory over time. But if you go back and read your notes again, you can put it back into your working memory and you can keep practicing so that you remember it. Okay, you can pause this slide and read it for yourself. This is kind of building things you already know. So you should know that life needs energy. We need energy to grow, to move, to keep us warm. And we talked about how photosynthetic organisms are called producers because they can use light energy to produce their own chemical energy. And that's the topic we're learning about, photosynthesis. Again, I'm going to let you pause this and read it through in your own time. I'm not going to read it out. I'll just again talk about how we're going to look at how glucose is made and stored in these cells. And the green dots in the image are the chloroplasts. So this is a knowledge organiser. This is a good way of trying to see what you can remember. So looking at the image, what does the sun represent? That arrow travelling down to the leaf. Hopefully you realise that should be the light energy from the sun. To the right, we can see CO2 is moving into the leaf. And what do you think the blue wavy lines represent? Yes, that's the other raw material, water. So CO2 and water are the two raw materials that are going into the leaf for photosynthesis. On the right, coming out, O2 stands for oxygen. And that's a gas that's released out of the stomata in the bottom of the leaf. Now, if we have CO2, we have water, and we have light energy, and the leaf has chloroplasts, then it can do photosynthesis. So that battery at the bottom represents energy. We're taking the light energy from the sun and we're making it into chemical energy. Along the bottom, plant cells then make chemical energy. If plants are eaten by the cricket, some of that energy is passed on, but only a small percentage. If the spider eats the cricket, it's going to get energy. And if the bird consumes the spider, because it's also a consumer, it's going to get the energy. So the arrows show the energy flow from the plant to the cricket to the spider to the bird. But why do the arrows get smaller? Okay, so by asking questions of ourselves, we can test our knowledge and begin to relate to other things. So the first question, if plants can produce their own energy, why are they still in competition to survive? Pause the video, have a think, and when you're ready for the answer, press play again. So they're in competition for water, for sunlight, for space. What type of energy is trapped by the leaf? So again, pause, play when you want the answer. It's light energy that's trapped. Name the pigment which traps this energy. Pause the video. And hopefully you've done the answer yourself before I answer it. Inside the chloroplast, the pigment is called chlorophyll. Okay? What is this energy used to do to the water molecules in the leaf? The water is split into hydrogen and oxygen. What type of energy is represented by the battery symbol? Chemical energy. Name the carbohydrate molecule this is stored as. We've not learned that yet, that'll be in the next lesson, but you may know this because you can test these for this subject, this molecule using iodine. The arrows at the bottom show the flow of energy. How does the cricket get energy from the plant? The cricket eats the plants or parts of the plant to consume the energy. Why do these arrows get smaller? Only a small percentage is passed on each time, so there's less and less energy available as you move up a food chain. Energy is lost at each level by movement or through heat or undigested materials. And that is the end of lesson 1. So have you achieved the learning intentions? Can you now describe the role of chloroplasts in the plant cells? Can you write the basic word equation for photosynthesis? Can Can you explain why plants are referred to as producers in food chains? So see if you can do that now, and then probably pausing the video, and when you play, I'll give you the answers. So, what I should now know. Plant cells have chloroplasts. These contain chlorophyll. The chlorophyll traps the light energy required for photosynthesis. The raw materials of photosynthesis are water and carbon dioxide, which means the products are sugar and oxygen. To write that as a basic equation, you should have carbon dioxide plus water, then an arrow with light energy above the arrow. That gives you sugar and oxygen. So sugar is our main product, oxygen is our byproduct because it's released. Finally, plants carry out photosynthesis, are called producers as they produce their own food in the form of the sugar, and producers are always found at the start of food chains. And that's lesson 1.